When the sun comes up on America, across open fields, small towns, and city streets, a new day begins. And here, we rise with it. This is where hard work meets headlines, where truth matters, and America wakes up informed.
An interesting week.
They all are.
This is your country. This is your morning. This is Daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. America, let's do it together.
Love you, Ivy.
Love you too.
And it starts right now.
All right, diving into another big day here on Daybreak. A lot to cover. Fighting for you from the Foxhole FM. Glad to have you on board. Those of you that are up early, nice to see you this morning. Here are three big things we need to get to today. Number one, go ahead and either put on or take off your tinfoil hat and let the facts speak for themselves. President Trump waiving all NDAs on those with information on UFOs. Really getting real at this point. Number two, thousands of non-residents have been voting in New Jersey elections, and yet the governor there blaming President Trump, of course, for the blatant failures in her state. Can they tell the truth? No is the answer. And number three, speaking of the midterms, just yesterday in a powerful stand for the hardworking taxpayers of this country, Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Mehmet Oz announced that the Trump administration is pausing more than $1 billion in Medicaid payments to California and Minnesota due to suspected fraud and noncompliance. More fraud, $1 billion frozen. Listen to this.
CMS is pausing more than $1 billion in federal Medicaid payments to California and to Minnesota because of suspected fraud and noncompliance. That includes more than $867 million for California and over $200 million for Minnesota. If those states want that money, they need to provide documentation that these payments are legitimate.
This isn't some vague promise. Finally, this is action, real, immediate accountability. For years, Democrats let fraud run rampant, treating your taxpayer dollars like an endless ATM for scammers, insiders, and failed systems. But the Trump administration is flipping the script. We are detecting fraud before the money leaves the Treasury. No more pay and chase. It's detect and prevent. And today is just the latest victory in a full-scale war on waste and mostly fraud. Let's talk about the scale of this disaster that the left has consistently ignored. A disaster that has been directly facilitated by open border policies. A Somali refugee has been blowing the whistle on Minnesota's broken welfare system and just how much his fellow immigrants are abusing it. Listen to this.
And then interestingly enough, even though I spoke very good English, one of the things that I was told to do is go find a discounted housing Section 8, which I didn't know what actually it was, and sign up for all the other community benefits within the government or the state. And my response was, I'm actually here to work. It was coming from the community that actually thought that was just a way of life, right? I instead of being asked about what kind of school I want to go to, what subjects I would love to study, and those interesting conversations weren't there at all. And my response was, can we do better things? Can we as a community actually integrate? And let's listen to that word, interestingly, because that had got me a huge backlash. This is many, many years ago that many people thought, no, let's not talk about integration. And I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for a pushback against this idea of sort of melting into America, becoming part of America.
So they hate that idea. This is what happens when many immigrants arrive here at the same general time frame. They're being coached from day one on how to take advantage of the American system. And then Democrats tell us it's all a conspiracy. Well, this Somalian is telling you point blank that it happened to him. He was told upon arrival to skip assimilation, jump straight onto Section 8 housing, grab every community benefit, and treat welfare like a way of life. This is part of the reason why HHS is having to pause $1 billion, because the state is trusting people who should never be trusted, and that's the sad truth. as laid out by FTC Chairman Andrew Ferguson also yesterday.
All of these benefit programs are not designed to make sure, naturally, that every single dollar is going where it intended. When these programs were set up, they were set up on the assumption that everyone who participates in these programs, federal bureaucrats, state bureaucrats, and people who are going to apply for the programs are going to play by the rules and that we can trust everyone to do it. And what we have learned is that that's just not true. Our society has disintegrated from the high trust society that it has been, and the only way that we can restore that high trust is to make sure that the money stays in the agencies or goes to people who actually need it, and if you get money fraudulently, you go to jail. And that is what this anti-fraud effort is about.
And by the way, Abby Ifton's story isn't isolated. It's systemic rot enabled by open borders and zero oversight, so it's no wonder that the Trump administration is discovering waste, fraud, and abuse behind every nook and cranny. In education, Secretary Linda McMahon uncovered massive fraud there as well. Here she is.
Just beginning now to really look into the fraud that you're referencing, the K through 12 schools. We've been focusing quite a bit of our fraud detection, if you will, in higher education, at the moment. And we have, through our student loan program, the FAFSA program, we have actually identified and prevented now over $2 billion in fraud. So I'm very pleased that we've been able to do that. And now we're looking more at the K through 12 issues that you were raising. And I can assure you that we will be following through with our departments to see where this money has been going. If fraudsters are just seemingly trying to pick the pocket of American taxpayers everywhere we turn. So as we're looking at schools, or we're looking at the programs that are going out, we will be focusing on this fraud as well.
Fraudsters picking the pockets of American taxpayers everywhere. Dead people getting loans. Bots pretending to be students. Ghost applicants that never existed. The previous administration turned off basic investigative checks. But now they've been turned back on. And they're saving billions of dollars. Look at Los Angeles County. DA Nathan Hochman had to freeze a $4 billion sexual abuse settlement because up to 81% of over 11,000 claims might be fraudulent. Claims from decades ago with mismatched names, dates, locations that don't even exist in county records. When you remove accountability, predators and opportunists feast on your money. And the other side continues to deny it. Hollywood elites like Richard Gere continue to peddle lies about the Trump administration's crackdown on fraud, praising USAID as some pure giveaway while ignoring how it became a slush fund for waste and connected interests. Listen to this.
USAID was probably the most pure thing that America did up to that moment. It was a giveaway program to needy people, whether it was health, it was education, it was women's issues, it was all kinds of stuff. Big things.
It was a giveaway, all right. A giveaway of your money to God only knows who. USAID was a disaster by all accounts, financially for the taxpayers of America. Time to clean up our act. We've got more to come. Nice to see you on a Wednesday. Let me start with this. Why do I care what a Hollywood celebrity has to say anyway? Well, why is their opinion somehow elevated above that of an average citizen? I mean, Richard Gere, they're talking about USAID being this great thing. We all know that that's not what USAID had turned into. It was funding sex changes in Guatemala, DEI initiatives in Serbia. We've got enough issues here at home. We don't need our tax dollars going toward those things, whatever those are for. Richard Gere in denying reality in the same way we see when Democrats skip hearings on fraud entirely. Senator Bernie Moreno rightfully called them out on it yesterday because they just don't show up, because they don't care what happens to your money as long as they get votes, hell or high water. Listen to this.
I think preventing fraud in government should be completely nonpartisan. It's not a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. Yet almost the entirety of the Republican dais is filled with people sitting here listening to the entire hearing, and literally the entire Democrat dais is empty. I think that's, quite frankly, a disgrace. I think it's a disgrace to the people who pay taxes to know that there's an entire party that does not care whether taxpayer money is burnt.
One side shows up and fights for you, and the other side ghosts when it's time to protect your wallet. That's not leadership, it's complicity and denial. Now, here's where it gets exciting. Since day one of this Trump administration, we've built a real machine to crush fraud. President Trump established the task force to eliminate fraud, chaired by Vice President J.D. Vance. It brings together the Treasury, Justice, Agriculture, Labor, HHS, HUD, Education, and more in a coordinated national strategy. We've already seen it deliver concrete results by pausing hundreds of millions to Minnesota early on and demanding cooperation, deferring over $1.3 billion in California Medicaid reimbursements, imposing nationwide moratoriums on suspicious Medicare enrollments, launching audits of every state's Medicaid fraud control units, creating the DOJ's National Fraud Enforcement Division with expanded healthcare fraud strike forces that have prosecuted, yes, hundreds, including record Minnesota cases, like the largest autism fraud scheme ever charged, and strengthening the Education Department checks that blocked ghost students and bots to save over $2 billion in student aid. And that's because fraud is theft and should not be tolerated as a way of life. And that is exactly how Senator Rand Paul puts it. Here he is.
In my office, I keep a clock that measures our national debt in real time. This morning, that clock stood at nearly $40 trillion. Washington taxes the American people. Washington borrows against our grandchildren's future earnings. Then Washington sends billions of dollars out the door, often without knowing who receives it, if any service was performed, or even if the business exists. The federal government loses hundreds of billions of dollars to fraud every year. And when the money disappears, politicians act surprised. No private business would survive this way. A bank confirms an account exists before wiring the money. A credit card company flags suspicious changes in seconds. An insurance company verifies that the patient exists and the treatment occurred before paying a claim. They verify first because it is their money that's on the line. But when the money belongs to the taxpayer, Washington pays first and asks questions later, if it asks them at all.
Yeah. President Trump promised to drain the swamp. He's delivering with RFK Jr. at HHS, Dr. Oz at CMS, Linda McMahon at Education, Doge efforts, and the full task force. He's restoring integrity so programs actually help vulnerable Americans instead of enriching scammers and blue state machines. Now think about it. 1 in 5 Americans essentially works for a year to pay taxes stolen by fraud. That's your money for schools, roads, borders, veterans, siphoned off. No more. The Trump team is saying no documentation, no money. Prove it or lose it. Democrats can deny reality, skip hearings, and defend the status quo, but the American people see the wins. Whistleblowers exposing rackets, education fraud stopped, Medicaid billions protected. This is momentum, and this is results. President Trump is fighting for you, the taxpayer, the worker, the citizen who plays by the rules. rebuilding a high-trust society where benefits go to those who need them. Fraud is punished, and government serves the people again. The swamp draining slowly, but draining. The fraud machine cracking. And with your support, we're just getting started. And here's another headline that just came in. The FBI nabs an alleged $547 million Medicare fraud fugitive overseas. He's been on the run for 3 years. Khalid Ahmad Satari, indicted 2019, Southern District of Florida. Satari accused of participating in a conspiracy that fraudulently billed Medicare for $547 million worth of expensive and medically unnecessary genetic tests between 2016 and 2019. That's a big deal because it's the third high-profile fraudster arrested in just 5 weeks. In just 5 weeks. It is incredible. Also, fraud on the voter rolls. New Jersey, the governor admitting almost 7,000 non-citizens on the voter rolls in New Jersey. They called it a glitch, but we found out that's not true. State didn't care. Hundreds of them voted. There might be more. The fraud in this country at every level has to be addressed, whether it's your tax dollars or your vote. What side are you on? All right, I want to tell you about my favorite new thing, newish, and that's my ghost bed. You knew I was going to say it. The ghost bed that Ivy and I have been using for the last 4 months is a game changer. An American-made sleeping system that we have fallen in love with. And so have you. I get the emails from all over the country. And it is a remarkable system. Ghostbed.com/Gruber. Promo code's Gruber. You'll save 10% off the best price of the year and have 101 nights to try it. No risk. If you don't like it, and if you really don't, they'll come pick it up. I would be surprised if you gave up your ghost bed after you've tried it. But 101 nights. Ghostbed.com/Gruber. Promo code Gruber. I think you're going to love it as much as I do. I'll be right back. Just last week, the president took to prime time for the networks that would carry it and said, we have tremendous amounts of fraud and foreign interference in our elections. The Democrats scoffed, mocked, shot back that there is no such thing. And then yesterday, New Jersey admits almost 7,000 non-residents were found on voter rolls. They claim it was a computer glitch. It was not. Hundreds of those people have cast ballots just since 2023. And despite all the facts, the governor of New Jersey admitting there's a problem and then tries to blame, you guessed it, Donald Trump. Here she is.
Were asked if they wanted to register to vote. In the case of this error, some individuals indicated that they weren't citizens and weren't eligible to vote, but the software registered them anyway. The error in the software was corrected a year later in June of 2024. That is more than 2 years ago. I learned of this last Wednesday, and I immediately ordered my chief counsel to launch a comprehensive investigation. Currently, the Division of Elections is working to ensure anyone who is illegally registered is removed.
No, so what happened is they claimed that there was this snafu. There wasn't. The company pushed through the voter registrations despite the fact that it's illegal for non-residents to vote in federal elections in New Jersey or anywhere else for that matter. There you have it. More evidence of election fraud trickling right down to you. If you want to lose weight and you've fought with it for a long time, I've got a solution for you, My Pure Health. Many of you have struggled to lose weight and you lose it and you gain it back. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Your metabolism is shut off. You need a factory reset, if you will. Well, at My Pure Health, I did that in 2018. It was a game changer, a life changer. Right now, you get 25% off this program. You get a free consultation. You have literally nothing to lose but the weight. All right? Go to gruberhealth.com. gruberhealth.com. 25% off, a free consultation. You can find out if it's a good fit for you. I know hundreds of people that have done this. Hundreds, literally. They swear by this program. gruberhealth.com. 25% off, free consultation. What have you got to lose? I'll be right back. All right, you just heard me talk about New Jersey, right? And the governor there trying to say it was a software glitch. However, the company in charge of it says this was not a software error. The identity services provider New Jersey uses at the DMV is firing back, saying The New Jersey Division of Elections were the ones that registered nearly 7,000 foreign voters. IDEMIA's role is to transmit information through the motor vehicle system. The voter registration information is transferred to the New Jersey Department of State Division of Elections, which is ultimately responsible for verifying eligibility to vote. So says the company. There's no computer glitch here. It was intentional. Joining me this morning is retired Sheriff Richard Mack of Graham County, Arizona, the founder of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and co-author of the new book, The Democrat Murder of America. Sheriff, nice to see you this morning.
Thanks, Steve. It's amazing what friends will do for each other, because it's 3:30 my time.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, but it's a big night. Did you sleep last night? I mean, big primary day yesterday in Arizona. Andy Biggs cruises to victory by more than 50 points. Jay Feely, former professional football kicker, is the nominee for the 1st Congressional District. And Mark Lamb, another former sheriff, has secured his ability to run for, I think it's the 5th Congressional District in Arizona.
It is, yeah, it's my district. Yeah, he's going to be my congressman.
So there you go. And I like him. He's been on this program a number of times, so have you. But let's talk about this election integrity thing. When you look at the former Secretary of State in Arizona, who is currently your governor, what are the problems in Arizona that we need to be concerned about?
Katie Hobbs. Yeah, enough said. She's absolutely the most inept, incompetent governor we've ever had. It's amazing how we keep electing people just because they have a D next to their name when they have absolutely no business, no qualifications to be in this position in the first place. And what she didn't do as Secretary of State, she was running for governor as Secretary of State, and she stayed in charge of the election statewide while she was running.
It's funny you should mention that. It's funny you should mention that, Sheriff, because we're about to see the same scenario here in Michigan where I sit this morning. Jocelyn Benson, the current Secretary of State, who has refused to clean up the voter rolls as required by the state constitution, but for which there is no penalty if she doesn't do the work, right? So there's no teeth in the law. Yeah. She's going to be the Democratic nominee for governor in this state. So we're about to see the same scenario here up north. It's not a good scenario, is it?
No, it isn't. And not only that, but she got in the way of Sheriff Dar Leaf in Berry County, who's been investigating voter fraud for almost 5 years now. Probably the best sheriff in the country that has been just doggedly going after election fraud in his county and helping in other counties and in other states. And he always gets reelected. He's on his 5th term. The people really like him. He's very popular because he's a man of such high integrity. But she did everything she could. The Secretary of State of Michigan did everything she could to get him arrested, to get him indicted, to stand in the way, to refuse to produce reports of the elections. All he wanted was the totals of votes in Berry County. And she refused to give them to him, and she's obstructed justice the whole time.
She certainly
and now,
has.
what do they want to do? Make her governor and promote her? And this is just
Let me ask
so
you this.
egregiously wrong, and such election fraud and cheating by the Democrat Party, which brings me back to the Democrat Murder of America.
Yeah, there you go. Nice plug, Sheriff. Well done. The Democrat Murder of America. There's the book. Well done. You're like a professional. Let me ask you about this. I had a person on this program just this week telling me that Arizona has no issues with voter fraud, no issues with elections, no issue in 2020. Joe Biden got 81 million votes. That's the way it is. Nobody should even think twice about it. I think twice about it. I don't think there's any way on God's green earth that Joe Biden got 81 million votes. It's not mathematically possible, I don't believe. What is the security status of the state of Arizona? Key swing state, governor's race, a couple of key congressional races, including the 2 I just mentioned. What is the state of Arizona this morning?
Well, we finally have some movement and traction because a judge finally said that Maricopa County has to cooperate with investigations that are ongoing and have been ongoing for about 5 years in Maricopa County. The biggest problem with Maricopa County is it's too big. About 85% of the entire state's population is in Maricopa County, the greater Phoenix area. And they should be dividing that county up. We only have 15 counties in Arizona, and Maricopa should be divided up about 4 or 5 more times. It's gotten to where it's just the Los Angeles of Arizona, and that county does whatever it wants. The county commissioners get away with murder. There's another plug for the book, and it's crazy how these crimes continue, and even the Democrats will not admit that computers can be hacked. Computers are completely integrous when it comes to elections, but all the other times, even Kamala complained about computer hacking with the elections. This is absolutely one of the greatest conspiracies and the biggest crime to hit Arizona and our country in a century.
Well, here's my question on that. President Trump was in primetime Thursday for the networks that decided to carry it. This one did.
Right.
How can we be here a week later almost? I have heard of nobody being fired and nobody being arrested. Where is the accountability?
Well, usually judges, and it's been that way in Arizona, judges have been going to bat, carrying the water for the Democrat Party and for their subterfuge. And for anyone in public office to do that sort of thing, it just makes it's because the cover up and the complicity is so ubiquitous that it's so hard to get to the point to where we really focus on the arrests of these people, because it's blocked at every turn by complicit judges and woke judges. And I thought when we finally arrested the judge in Wisconsin for her complicity in obstruction of justice for an illegal alien that was wanted by ICE, and then people wonder why ICE are trying to do their job. No, it's gone way too far. And I bring that up in the book. We have gone too far. We've gone too far with cheating and thinking that machines are going to be integrous in counting the votes.
They're not.
They're not. Not even close.
Yeah. All right. The book is
and
The
Mike
Democrat.
Lindell has another one that has brought the truth to light on all of that. And finally, we even got some Democrat to admit that we should not be using machines. We should be doing paper ballots.
Paper ballots. The Democrat murder of America, folks. Make it worthwhile for the sheriff of getting up so early. There it is.
Well, let me give you the website for the book. It's
real quick.
murderofamerica.com. This is the most powerful book in the country right now, folks. This is a book of the ages. Get your copy and give one to your favorite Democrat. And I'm serious. We actually appeal to Democrats to join us in the holy cause of liberty.
.com. Sheriff, thank you.
Well, thanks for having me, Steve. It's always good to be with you.
All right, welcome back to it. Now, we've had a lot of people talking about as it ran through my house. One of my children got this terrible parasite, right? The explosive diarrhea, the whole show, the terrible pains and cramps and issues. Not very entertaining. By the way, I just do want to say Taylor Farms has been exonerated. They are not the ones at the focal point of this outbreak across the country. But regardless where it comes from, you ought to be able to protect yourself. Peter Galuli is the CEO of the Wellness Company. He's joining me now. Peter, nice to see you this morning.
Thanks for having me back, Steve.
Yeah, I got to see this illness up close and in person with one of my kids. Very unpleasant, to say the least, and it was a struggle. But everyone's talking about this cyclospora parasite responsible for what's now thousands of infections across the country. Can you explain what it is exactly?
Sure. Well, first of all, I don't envy you to be a witness to someone with a parasitic infection. But the good news, Steve, is that it's not spread through human-human contact. This is only spread through food. Cyclospora is a parasite that is a small single-cell organism. As I said, it's spread through food, primarily vegetables. It has an incubation time of about 1 week, so you can be contracted the parasite and not know it for at least a week until the symptoms manifest themselves.
So once they show up, trust me, they're tough to deal with. You can go ahead and explain the symptoms. I saw it, but you probably have a better handle of all the things you should be aware of, because you need to see a doctor or have something ready right on the shelf. We'll get to that. I mean, I know about the diarrhea and so forth, but what else is involved? What should people be aware of?
Yeah, the symptoms are primarily GI in nature. So obviously you mentioned the diarrhea, but it also includes gas, bloating, nausea, stomach pains, kind of rapid weight loss, unpleasant things that most people seek to avoid.
Yeah. Now, as I said, Taylor Farms did a deep dive. They said, look, folks, it's not us. And I say that because where do you go to get your reputation back, right? They were unfairly targeted for being the source, but it doesn't really matter where it came from. Shredded lettuce or something you get at the grocery store or somewhere else. Do we know that the source it's fruits and vegetables, right? I mean, that's what it is. And can you clean the vegetables? What can you do?
We don't know, Steve, to be honest with you. As you said, Taylor Farms was the victim of a false positive test by the CDC and probably cratered their sales. Feels terrible for them because it turns out their produce has been absolutely clean this whole time, and now they're the victim. But as you said, shredded lettuce is the suspected culprit, but honestly, I don't think at this point we know. Cyclospora is commonly found in leaf-based vegetables, including like cilantro and things like that, as well as kind of the fruits that grow close to the ground, things like berries. And that's because primarily in the wild, cyclospora is spread by kind of grazing animals and animals that are close to the ground. And it's spread through things like feces. So it's probably one of those types of foods that I just mentioned, but the CDC's guess is as good as mine at this point.
Yeah. I guess the question is, first of all, prevention's the best. How do you avoid it? And if you do get it, then what?
It's a great question, Steve. It's a very hard thing to avoid. I mean, we eat fruits and vegetables every day, so
right.
The best thing to do is to be prepared. The nice thing about cyclospora, if you want to call it the nice thing about cyclospora, is the fact that it is an extremely easy thing to treat. It's treatable via trisulfamexazone or Bactrim. It's a very common antibiotic. It's an antibiotic that we've had in our medical emergency kits now for 4 years. So it really pays off. Another one of those situations where having one of these medical kits on hand, Steve, really can cure you of something that's ultimately quite nasty.
Yeah, and here's what it looks like, folks. I've always got one sitting here. We happened to be out of town when my child became afflicted. And so I made a mistake because you make a travel kit. I didn't take it with me. I made a mistake, Peter. I admit it here in front of everybody. But the Wellness Company has these medications in these kits for a variety of problems, not just this. But the Bactrim is right here in this kit, has been for years. If you've got it on your shelf and you know what the symptoms are, because there's a book in here that tells you how to use the medications, You know how to react quickly, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. And to be honest, I still don't think the Cyclospora story is over, unfortunately. The CDC has tried to calm people down, but every day we see dozens and dozens of more cases across dozens of states. So this is not an isolated thing. It's turning into something that's quite widespread, and the CDC just can't seem to get their finger on what's actually causing it. So why not have this on hand? As I said, we all eat fruits and vegetables every day. It's kind of a hard thing to avoid. So why not just have something on hand so the second you start feeling a little bit queasy, you're able to treat the symptoms right away and avoid the worst type of outcomes that this parasite can have.
And everybody knows early treatment, regardless of what the illness or malady may be, early treatment is often the key to much faster success. Peter Galuli, thank you as always, my friend.
Thank you, Steve.
Really appreciate it. And this is just one of the kits, folks. This is just one of them. They've got kits, the best first aid kit I've ever seen. And yes, I've had to use it because gravity always wins. They do have a travel kit. I forgot to take it with me. They have kits for your needs. Just go to twc.health/Gruber. You can find out more. The promo code is Gruber. You'll save 10% on this kit. And any of the kits you want, they've got them for travel, for home use, for everything. Go check it out. You'll be glad you did. Good stuff. One more bit of news here on the elections before we hit the break. That is that Nancy Mace defying President Trump, maybe in a way that I agree with, endorsing Ralph Norman, the congressman from South Carolina, one of her colleagues from the South Carolina congressional delegation, in the run for that U.S. Senate seat left behind when Lindsey Graham died suddenly here just a couple of weeks ago. Nancy Mace endorsing Ralph Norman, saying he is a true conservative, which he is, and the best choice for South Carolina, which he just might be. There you have it. Ralph Norman running for the United States Senate. We'll have him on the program sometime soon. I'll take a break. I'll be right back. Well, we are a step closer maybe today. I mentioned this at the top of the program of knowing what UFOs are. Because President Trump has directed agencies to waive NDAs for former employees involved in UFO investigations. They call them UAPs, of course, now, unidentified anomalous phenomena. These directives were given to the Department of War and the intelligence community. Now, to be clear, the order asks the agencies to allow former government employees and contractors who have relevant information about UFOs to come forward to meet with representatives of Trump's task force. It's the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. Any NDAs they sign would be waived under the order. A senior administration official did stress, however, this is not a directive that would declassify anything. Wouldn't declassify anything. It would just give them the ability to go through government channels and then see what they know. But it's kind of a big deal because long-hidden UFO information at the center of the Trump push for free former officials, a lot more information would be available. A lot more information would be available. So what do you think about this? We've seen the videos. We talk about it. I'm going to have somebody on about this. Again, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I have questions. What was that I saw? What are these things that go in and out of the ocean? Why is there no contrail, if you will? If an object is moving that fast, an airplane, a bullet, it leaves sound waves. It leaves a trail that's visible to cameras, sometimes to the naked eye. How can something move that fast silently, baffle Air Force pilots, Navy pilots, Army pilots, commercial airline pilots, just baffle them at the speed, maneuverability, and agility, moving far faster and more sophisticated than anything we have? What is it, my friends? What is it? I look forward to your emails at stevegruber.com. But apparently that we're taking a step in the right direction to take away the NDAs. The non-disclosure agreements are being cast aside by the Trump administration. What do you make of that? stevegruber.com. You tell me. What is your theory of UFOs? I'm curious. What do you think? I'll take a break. This is Daybreak, hour number 2 on the way.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now on Real America's Voice.
All right, welcome back to it as we kick off another brand new hour here of the program. Glad to have you on board. A lot to cover every single day. Three big things to know this hour. Let's start with number one. The FBI nabbed one of its top targets for Medicare fraud. He was found overseas in a large operation. Is believed to have stolen close to $600 million. Remarkable. Number two. Congresswoman Nancy Mace has bucked President Trump to endorse Congressman Ralph Norman to be the next senator from South Carolina. And by the way, I like Ralph Norman a lot myself. And number three, it's time for that game day decision. Breaking news, side stories, or more from the circus. I don't know yet, but Ivy's going to tell me. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to have you here.
Nice to be seen. So you were talking about this guy, one of the FBI's most wanted fraudsters is now back in U.S. custody.
He sure is.
After authorities say he spent years on the run following a massive Medicare fraud scheme. Now, we talked about this yesterday, but this particular guy schemed out of $547 million between
Isn't that remarkable?
2016 and 2019.
3 years' time, $547 million that they know of. Khalid Ahmed Satari.
That's right. And federal prosecutors say Satari and his co-conspirators used deceptive telemarketing campaigns, telemedicine companies, patient recruiters, illegal kickbacks, and bribes to generate orders for expensive genetic tests that
the whole
patients
menu
often didn't need.
Yeah.
Those tests were then billed to Medicare, with some reimbursed for as much as $20,000 each. Investigators allege that the scheme ultimately submitted more than $547 million, as we just said. Satari was indicted. He was indicted in 2019, released on bond under the condition that he would stay out of the medical industry. But prosecutors say he continued participating in the healthcare fraud through laboratories in Texas after failing to appear in court in 2022 and fleeing the United States. Authorities tracked him down in the Middle East, where he said he was carrying a fake Mexican passport.
So that's what I was wondering.
He was arrested, and he was using a false identity, but they found him, busted him, and brought him back to the United States.
So I didn't even know they had this most wanted fraudsters list. Mm-hmm. It's the third person nabbed in just 5 weeks, apparently. But $547 million in 3 years' time. He apparently targeted elderly patients a lot. But this goes back to what I heard Kennedy and Oz say yesterday. We need to stop the fraud before it happens, because trying to claw the money back is a losing proposition. We need to prevent the money from ever going out in the first place. And my question is, over 3 years, how does it get to a point where you're over $500 million on your way to $600 million in just 3 years' time? How does that even occur without somebody saying, wait a second?
Well, I mean, there probably are legitimate companies operating that this may be the case, right? That might be the amount of money that is needed for providing services to Medicare patients.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
But
it is concerning that there should be some checks and balances. There should be some, hey, maybe like, an agent goes out and makes sure that whatever, the Medicare recipient.
Oversight,
can go and see and make sure that the operations are what they should be. Yeah. It is the same thing that happened in Minnesota and elsewhere around the United States. I just think that it seems to me, if there were some checks and balances and making sure that these companies are doing what they say they're doing.
Well, I guess the good news is, and it's what I talked about in my monologue today, the good news is people like this are being caught.
Yes, that is
money
good news.
is being stopped, the $1 billion being stopped from being sent to Minnesota and California. Right. So there is progress.
But you are right in what you said, because after this $547 million is gone, how are they going to recoup it? Or can they recoup it? Is it possible? Is it still there? Has it been spent? So that's the thing. It is stopping it before it happens, and that is definitely key. But I do want to move on to something else. Yesterday, Senator Kennedy and Secretary Brooke Rollins were in a conversation, and I always am very, very, very much a label reader for the food that I eat.
You sure are.
Especially seafood, because a lot of it comes from overseas. India,
Yeah.
China,
Vietnam. If you see that on the label, you're like, yeah, no.
No, I will only buy generally American
Seafood. Yeah.
And I will always do my best to buy local if possible. If you live in areas that you can buy local seafood, that
Sure.
would be my biggest recommendation. Or just fish in general. But I want you to hear this exchange between the two of them. Anthony, if you could play that, please.
Of the
Are
sea?
oyster harvesters farmers?
Yes. In this USDA,
Are they
yes.
having to compete with other countries who grow oysters and shrimp in a ditch and shoot them full of antibiotics?
100% yes.
And if you eat too much of that foreign shrimp and oysters, you'll grow an extra ear, won't you?
I'm not sure about that, but I know it is not good. And I also know we
Why
import
aren't
90%
we
of our
inspecting
shrimp.
the shrimp and the oysters from abroad?
Well, it goes much larger than that. Why are we importing so much from abroad, which goes to the president's trade agenda?
I'm in big trouble.
Yes, you are.
Guys, look, we need straight answers now. We're down to it.
So
they grow oysters
Steve,
in a ditch. Well, I've seen this actually. This is not a joke. Like the shrimp that come from foreign countries, they're grown literally in swimming pools that are filled with filth and whatever shrimp eat, right?
Right, and then they do have to provide them with. I mean, I think in some cases, your beef and cattle and things like that might be getting injections. I'm not sure.
Ours doesn't.
Ours doesn't, but this is the deal. So 90% of our seafood on our shelves is being imported.
90%.
And this is why can't American, fishermen or people who are going out and getting shrimp or fish or whatever it is, lobsters. I ran a lobster industry down in Key West for many years. Why can't we those fishermen sell at a better rate to the United States? Because even yourself, you say, if you get walleye from any restaurant in Michigan or elsewhere, it's coming from Canada. Well, why are we allowing Canada to do that? Why wouldn't we encourage our fishermen to do that? So this is something that I just don't
This is a strange
understand.
thing. Walleye, commercial fishing of walleye in the United States was banned in Lake Erie, the biggest walleye lake in the world, in 1955. But the Canadians have continued to fish walleye out of Lake Erie. So if you go into a restaurant and buy a walleye dinner, which I love, by the way, it's a fish that was caught on the Canadian side of the line. Same fish.
Right.
It just happened to swim on the Canadian side of the line instead of the American side of the line.
That's right. It just seems to me that there should be incentives for American farmers, American fishermen, and whatever industry it is that you're in. If you're providing food, it should come from America, and you should be incentivized to do so in America. And it seems that these low prices that are coming from overseas, it just doesn't really make sense because the American farmers, fishermen, or whoever can't compete.
Right. We have more regulations, more inspection, and that's something the Senator Kennedy just said there. Are we inspecting the oysters grown in the ditch or the shrimp grown in the swimming pool?
And it's to be said, our USDA or food quality folks being able to go out and inspect these
facilities overseas,
or everything else, or are they not able to?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Ivy, I had 90% of our seafood is imported. I had no idea. That's insane. Nice to see you this morning. Love you.
Nice to see you. Buy local.
Buy local. Love you too. We'll take a break and be right back on Daybreak. All right, back at it, 11 straight nights now of bombing in Iran by the United States, taking out bridges, infrastructure, military installations along the Strait of Hormuz, and a lot more. But it doesn't seem, as we have passed the halfway mark of the 60-day memorandum of understanding to negotiate peace between the United States and Iran, it doesn't feel like we've made much progress. Oil spiking to close to $90 a barrel now. And China about to re-enter the oil market and start purchasing. Oil prices could really become volatile. Is there an end in sight? Don Brown was a Republican candidate for North Carolina Senate, former Navy JAG officer, former federal prosecutor, and a good friend of this program. Don, good morning.
Good morning to you, Steve. Good to see you today.
Good to see you. All right, so are we headed to a broader regional war? Are the Houthis going to try to block sea lanes out of the Red Sea, as Iran says they are? What's happening next?
Well, I think you have nailed it with that very question. You know, we've seen fluctuating oil prices down and spiking back up again as the Straits of Hormuz have apparently largely been shut down. The question is, what's going to happen, with the Houthis in Yemen? You know, the Red Sea is also a channel for oil shipment. And through this Bab el-Mandeb, that is the strait there between Yemen and Djibouti, where shipping passes through. It's only 18 miles wide from the Red Sea into the Gulf of Aden. Are they going to engage in asymmetrical warfare there? And that's what we're in, asymmetrical warfare, meaning you have a weakened opponent using unconventional tactics with cheap weapons to disrupt. And so we're going to see drone attacks, other types of attacks, mining perhaps, and that strait separating the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. And it's disconcerting. Of course, in the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf is responsible for about 2.5 times more oil shipment, 21 to 22 million barrels a day at height shipping, whereas about 9 million of barrels a day coming through the Red Sea. But nonetheless, it could have a devastating effect on oil prices. And of course, that has a domino effect negatively for the United States all the way down. So we'll have to see what happens.
You know, from where I stand, Don, I think it's time just to finish the job and to be quite clear about this. Just take it to them. Look, we've dealt with this for almost 50 years. They want the ability to build missiles and drones unlimited so they can control and harass and intimidate the Strait of Hormuz, the Iranians. The Houthis are in the small country of Yemen. If Yemen continues to house these people, to facilitate these people, to disrupt the Red Sea shipping lanes, take those out too. And if that's a broadening of the war, so it is, but it's time. We're this far in.
Well, it's going to take a steel clenched fist to finish this off. Right now, in my judgment, Steve, the state of the war is comfortable for the Iranians. Yes, we have degraded their conventional military. I was on with Matt Gaetz the other night, and he used a phrase that made a lot of sense to me. He said the Iranian Navy is like a bunch of Boston whalers with RPGs. That's what some asymmetrical warfare is. But you've got to, if the Iranians can drag this out just like it is, and needle and hassle shipping coming through both of those straits and disrupt the world's flow of oil, they can drive oil prices up, which will hurt Republicans in the fall. They want the Republicans to lose control of the U.S. Congress because the Iranians know that when Democrats are in charge, that benefits them. I mean, we lost Iran to the Shah fell under a Democrat president, Jimmy Carter, in 1979. Another Democrat president, Barack Obama, gave him billions of dollars, and Joe Biden turned an eye the other way and simply said, "Don't." Well, that's really effective. So they want to play this long game. I agree with you. Finish them off and do it sooner rather than later. We have the firepower to do it, by the way. The question is, do we have the will to just get the job done?
Yeah, iron fist, like you said, but the problem is, like you also said quite clearly, Don, is the political price to be paid this fall. But to be fair, the Democrats have really destroyed themselves. If it was old school Democrats, normal Democrats, I'll say, that were getting these nominations to run for Senate and House and governor's races around the country, the Republicans would get buried. But the Democrats are putting forth these socialist nutcases that actual Democrats are like, we can't support that. So the Democrats are choosing the worst possible candidates from the fringe in these primaries and really hurting their chances of what should have been a real easy run for them through the midterms, becoming very complicated. In fact, some of the projections now show that the Republicans could hold the House. And that's not far-fetched at this point.
Well, you raise a very good point. The radical nature of Democrat candidates start right there in New York City. You know, they try to put Plattner on the on the ticket in Maine, and National Party finally took him off. They are running a lot of nutcases for sure. The National Party will try to use pocketbook as their issue. Here in North Carolina, Roy Cooper, the most radical governor in North Carolina history, running for the U.S. Senate against Michael Whatley, the gentleman who defeated me in the primary, is trying to use pocketbook issues. But it was the Democrats who drove up the prices of medical care and made it virtually unaffordable when they started with Obamacare and flooded the states with all these Medicaid programs. They're responsible for it. But you're right. The radical nature of Democrat candidates is, you would think, would hurt them, unless you're in places like New York or apparently Maine and other places. But we do have a shot at holding the House. But if oil gets too far out of control, in other words, if you're at $4 a gallon, $5 a gallon, here in North Carolina, we're about $3.70 around the Charlotte area right now.
But it's going to spike.
Yeah, and that's the wild card, and that's exactly
that
what
is a
Iranians
wild card.
want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Go back to your point. Take them out.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I asked the question, at what point does gas become the deciding factor, even though the president doesn't have a lot of control over that? Because they'll say it's an unnecessary war, Don, and so on and so forth. Well, you're right. We could allow Iran to get more powerful and control the Middle East, and we do nothing. Right. Don Brown, always good conversation, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you. See you soon.
Nice seeing you. See you soon. I'll take a break and be back. This is Daybreak. All right, here's a headline that'll affect a lot of people. The Education Department must wipe out, this is the headline, must wipe out student loans for 500,000 borrowers under a settlement, says the court. Borrowers scoring a major victory. This happened on Friday, by the way. After a federal appeals court rejected a challenge to a landmark settlement agreement and required the Education Department, Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, to continue discharging the federal student loans for more than 500,000 Americans. The ruling represents the department's latest loss in a long-running saga over the Sweet v. McMahon settlement. Once again, the courts have rejected the department's attempts to evade its obligations to borrowers who have waited far too long for the relief they are owed. Today's decision brings us another step closer to fulfilling the settlement. The ruling on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is the culmination of months of failed efforts by the Trump administration to delay relief for student loan borrowers under the landmark 2022 settlement agreement, which provides $23 billion in discharges to federal student loans, refunds of past payments, and other relief. So, once again, the student loan program is broken because colleges and universities are selling degrees that aren't worth the paper they are written on. They should be the co-signers. The American taxpayers should not be paying this bill. The universities that sold useless degrees should be paying this bill. As America celebrates its 250th anniversary, that's 250 years of the American dream, I've got something for you. If your American dream is owning a home, you need a bank that shares your values. Old Glory Bank's home loans team does things differently. No runaround, no hidden fees, no bouncing between departments at every step. You get a single loan expert guiding you from start to finish, one you can call directly when you need to. One that gives you honest, straightforward guidance without unnecessary fees and delays. Right now, they are celebrating America's birthday with you. A $250 lender credit on eligible loans when you close by August 31st. Get started at oldglorybank.com/RAV. That's oldglorybank.com/RAV. Loans and credits are subject to approval. Terms apply. Member FDIC, and they're an equal housing lender. I'll take a break and be right back.
All right.
Here's one of the tired conversations that keep being foisted upon us by those on the left. If you're white, you are by birth a racist, right? If you're white, you are by definition a racist. There's no way around it. You are an oppressor. That's how silly all of this has gotten. You're an oppressor and there's no way around it. And so I bring this up because I saw something ridiculous yesterday. several questions about the person in charge of the Smithsonian Natural History Museum. She was on the Hill answering questions about how the museum is putting together all this woke DEI nonsense instead of actually doing history. Right? So she's in the hot seat. Wouldn't say what a woman is, wouldn't say, Latina power is being sold on mugs or different things, right? But this one really got me. Are you polite? Are you polite? Is being polite a tenet of white supremacy? According to the Smithsonian, apparently it is. Being polite, opening a door, saying nice things to people, behaving yourself. Apparently that's white supremacy. It's just so jaw-droppingly ridiculous. Listen to this.
Excuse me, sir?
Is it important to be polite?
Yes, sir.
It's also interesting because the same mass action toolkit that your organization has been promoting references politeness as a defining characteristic of white supremacy culture. Ma'am, are you a white supremacist?
No, sir.
You're not. Can you help me square why your organization says that being polite is part of being a white supremacist?
I'm not exactly familiar with that passage of the Mass Action Toolkit, which is
I can show you the passage. It's right here.
It's unbelievable. That's Brandon Gill, by the way. He's been doing a fabulous job eviscerating stupidity on the Hill. But the problem is you lance one stupidity boil and three more seem to pop up. Being polite is now a tenet of white supremacy. Of course, being rude is probably a tenet of white supremacy, too. Breathing, probably white supremacy. Let me give you another example. The World Cup was an unmitigated success, beyond anybody's wildest dreams. All the people we saw on social media, coming here from all over the world, what a wonderful place America is. Well, according to Jasmine Crockett, the entire World Cup final was racist. The whole thing was racist. Really? Listen, here she is.
The World Cup that captured the imaginations of the entire world when they saw all of these people of color that was playing for all these teams. And ultimately, if you recall, the last two teams, it was Argentina and Spain. And it seemed like the vast majority of the world was rooting for Argentina, or actually against Argentina, right? And why was that? Just give me an explanation if you could guess. If you'll just let them finish the answer.
Spain had the best team. Maybe that's why they were rooting for them.
There's also a racist history that exists as it relates
Mr.
to
Byer,
Argentina.
you're recognized.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Oh, by the way, little history lesson for those of you that missed it in 5th grade. Spain was the leading country going into the New World and planting its flag in places like Argentina. But rooting for Argentina is racist. Okay. These are your Democrats today. Just want to clarify that for you, all right? Wesley Hunt, a congressional member from Texas who happens to be black, from a majority white district, by the way, he hates all this stuff. He can't stand it. And for good reason. So here's what he has to say on this whole thing about white supremacy and racism and so forth. Another great quote from Wesley Hunt. Listen.
If I played a drinking game, and every time I heard the word white or white supremacist while watching CNN, watching MSLSD, NBC, or listening to my colleagues on the left talk about white supremacy and white people all day, every day, I would be drunk after an hour and I would die of alcohol poisoning. What are we talking about? This is about protecting every single American, regardless of your race, religion, color, or creed. And I can assure you, as I have said in this room many a day, I've been black for my entire life. I'm not a white supremacist. What I want to do is be safe in my own communities, regardless of what you look like. And that's exactly what my colleague from Texas, Chip Roy, is trying to do here. That's exactly what we have done, secured our borders to ensure that people that have no business in this country harm and arbitrarily murder our children.
Yeah, we just want safe communities. That's why he wins. I would vote for that man in my district. I wish I could have people like that available here. He's a good man, is my point. So back to Director Hartig, because that's what sparked this conversation for me. Director Hartig, the director of the Smithsonian Institution, Museum of American History, would not say whether LGBTQ explicit displays were appropriate for children at her museum. And then Lauren Boebert, who will cruise to re-election this time around, called out the head of the Smithsonian for saying loving America is complicated. It is? Here it is.
Director, you've said that loving America is very complicated. Is it complicated to love your country?
I love my country unconditionally, ma'am.
And okay, so the 250th anniversary of the Declaration, you said that that should be problematized.
Yes, I did, and when historians use that, it means to add new stories.
What about when you
think
use
about
it?
it different ways? Pardon me, ma'am?
What about when you use it, Director?
When I use it, I mean to add new stories and think of new objects to tell the American story in all its richness since 1776.
But you're not going to include the babies that were killed? We can't think of those stories, those new stories to share with American people?
Ma'am, we are going to use the 2 million objects in our collection to tell the American story as fully as we can.
There's over 50 million more you can add to that.
Remarkable. Loving America is complicated. She loves America, but it's complicated. Not really. For 250 years, the promise of America has been the freedom to build something of your own. For millions of families, that dream begins with owning a home. But in the blink of an eye, the American dream can turn into a nightmare. With just some public information and a forged signature, criminals can legally transfer your home ownership into their name, and getting it back takes months, maybe years, tens of thousands in legal fees just to get back what was already yours. That's why I trust the experts at Home Title Lock. 24/7 title monitoring, urgent alerts, and a 100% fraud restoration success rate. They fight for property owners and their loved ones against this growing crime, and it's real. To celebrate America's 250th birthday, they're giving my audience 25% off up to 2 years in title fraud protection. That's $100 in savings and peace of mind, plus a free title history report to ensure you're not already a victim. Use my promo code Gruber25 at Home Title Lock. Get protected today. Gruber25 at Home Title Lock. Get protected today. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Gruber25. Look, we've had Home Title Lock for a while now. It's an inexpensive way to make sure somebody doesn't steal something that's very expensive. I'll take a break. I'll be right back. You know, space exploration, when I was a kid, it was all the rage. Landing on the moon, the space shuttle. Viking 1 becoming the first spacecraft to land on Mars. That's been 50 years. 50 years. Elon Musk wants to take 1 million people to Mars, but how do we get there? My next guest says he might have an idea. Rainer Zeitelman, the author of New Space Capitalism, The Entrepreneurial Path to the Stars. Rainer, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good to have you here. All right, so it's been 50 years since Viking 1 settled on the planet Mars, but we haven't sent anybody there. There's plans and talks and discussions to do it, but why haven't we done it so far?
Yes, this is a big question because after the moon landing in 1969, they had the plan to go to Mars with people in 1981. And so in the last decades, almost nothing happened. And I think it's not because of technical problems. Of course, there are a lot of problems. But when I wrote my book, New Space Capitalism, I had a conversation with Harry Jones from NASA, and he had a very interesting paper. He said, there are 7 challenges, technical challenges to go to Mars, but we can solve each of them today. We are ready to go. The problem is there is no economic incentive. You know, with the moon landing, there was a competition between the Soviet Union and the United States, who is better, socialism or capitalism. But after they planted the flag on the moon, the wind was out of the sail, and there was no longer any reason to do something. And I think today there should be economic reasons. So I have a suggestion in my book. It should be possible to own land on celestial bodies. Today, it's not possible because there is this Outer Space Treaty from 1967. And according to this space treaty, it's prohibited for countries to claim ownership over celestial bodies or land on celestial bodies. But I think it should be allowed for private people and for companies to give them a motive to go there. For example, if SpaceX would be able to go there, I think they should claim ownership, not of the whole planet, of course, but a manageable area, and then bring it to the stock market. Bring Mars or also asteroids to the stock market, and then there would be an economic incentive.
Right. So without private property rights, a cornerstone of free markets, obviously, you say there's no opportunity, no return on investment. Wildly expensive to do. But what do you get in return if you can't own anything? And that's a reasonable argument. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely, because the idea in this Outer Space Treaty that space on our celestial bodies belong to everyone. This is a socialist idea. And socialism never worked in the last 100 years. It failed time and again. It failed in the Soviet Union. It failed in Cuba. It failed in North Korea. It failed in Venezuela. It failed without any exception. And why should something that worked nowhere on Earth, why should it work on Mars? I think this is ridiculous. Without private property, there is no economic, and I said, I want to start a discussion with my book, and I'm very happy that some renowned space experts, for example, Matthew Reinster from Harvard Business School, that they gave me very positive feedback about my book, and I want to start a discussion about this. We need capitalism in space. And you see also what happened, you know, after the moon landing, we had 4 decades of stagnation in manned space flight. The launch costs, they stagnated for 4 decades. And then came Elon Musk, and he brought them down by 95%. If you compare the space shuttle launch costs on the one hand and SpaceX internal costs on the other hand, reduced it by 95%. So
Elon Musk has reduced the cost 95%, but if Elon Musk is going to absorb the cost of putting anything on Mars, whether it's one person or 1 million people, there has to be some value to that, and I agree with that. I think it's good, Rainer, that you point out that socialism has failed everywhere on Earth. It certainly won't work anywhere else. It's a universal failure. Throughout the universe, socialism would fail because it always fails. And so you have to have a capitalist model to make Mars or Saturn or Jupiter or anywhere else make sense, correct?
Yeah, for example, the first company or individual to successfully begin mining on asteroids should not only own the extracted resources, but I think they should be able to claim ownership of the entire celestial body and take it public on the stock market. That would allow anyone to become a shareholder and own a stake in the asteroid. You, me, and everyone. And to be honest, I have no problems that in the Outer Space Treaty it's prohibited for countries, for the government to claim ownership. I'm absolutely fine with this. But it should be allowed for private individuals. And I think if they don't allow it, they should take it. I think the history of America, first there were the settlers and the squatters, and only later on they legalized it with the Homestead Act. And I think this will happen in a similar way in space. We need space squatters as we had squatters in the history of the United States.
100 acres and a mule. Of course, the mule will be an AI mule, but it'll be a mule nonetheless on Mars, right? I mean, 100 acres and some sort of an AI robot mule. Why not? I like it, Rainer. I do. Appreciate you being here. The book is New Space Capitalism, The Entrepreneurial Path to the Stars. Rainer, thank you very much. There it is. Hold it up. There it is. It's a nice picture of the space shuttle, I think.
Yes.
Thank
New
you, sir.
Space Capital. Thank you for inviting me. Have a great day.
What a good conversation. Goodbye. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. What do you think of that? You want to own some land on Mars? I know a guy. His name's Elon Musk. He'll get us there, but sounds like that treaty of 1967 might have been put at the behest of Soviet socialist republics, potentially. How'd they work out, by the way? How'd that great experiment in socialism work out? Somebody remind me. I'll get back to that. I'll also get on to sports with Brock Paulbush here on Daybreak, coming straight ahead. All righty, let's check it on sports now with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. There were 13 games in Major League Baseball last night. American League winners included Tampa Bay, Cleveland, and Texas. National League winners included the New York Mets, Cincinnati, and Arizona. Pittsburgh at the New York Yankees, Baltimore at Boston were rained out. No games in the WNBA last night. There are 6 games in the league tonight. The league's All-Star game is Saturday night at the United Center in Chicago. Belgium's Remco Evenepoel won yesterday's 16th stage, which was an individual time trial at the Tour de France. He gained 28 seconds on overall leader Tadej Pogacar with the victory. Pogacar still leads by 4 minutes 32 seconds over Evenepoel, heading into today's 17th stage. Just 5 stages left in this year's Tour. And in the NHL, the Dallas Stars re-signed star forward Jason Robertson yesterday to a 1-year deal worth $12 million. He had 45 goals for the Stars this past season. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
Jason who? Never heard of him.
Jason Robertson. Yeah, he's a really good player.
A superstar, so starful. I've never heard of him. Yeah, so it is. Did you say the Tigers lost or they won? I missed.
No, they got smoked. They lost big time.
They got smoked.
11-2.
So 42 years and counting, we'll have no World Series in Detroit again this year.
That's more than likely. It's not 0% chance, but it's not very good.
It's 0.
Although they've played better the last couple of months, they've dug themselves too much of a hole. It's just, I don't know.
Who's
Every
the best
time
team in
they
baseball?
win- What's that?
Who's the best team in baseball?
Oh, the Dodgers.
Yeah. They've got, the greatest player in the history of the game, right?
That's debatable, but he's hurt right now. You're talking about Shohei Ohtani, of course. And they got lots of other really good players. So, they're the favorite to win it. But it's going to be tough. Milwaukee's very good. The Atlanta Braves are very good.
What do you think the money is? I go put $10 on the Tigers to win the series, and they win the series. What's the payback? Massive.
You're going to make me look that up.
Do that for the next time around.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Brock. Coming up, I've got some comments from Van Jones saying he is sick of the insanity from the fringe on the left. The Democrats. They should have had an easy walk to the midterms, but it's not turning out that way because they're picking these crazy people. We'll talk about it ahead on Daybreak.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now.
All right, welcome back to it as we continue another hour here on the program. A lot going on here today. Here are three big things you need to know. Number one, 2 Democrat candidates taking cash from an Epstein-tied mega donor after slamming Epstein class. Yeah, of course they did. James Tallarico and John Ossoff taking money from Reid Hoffman, billionaire tied to Epstein. Of course they do. They don't actually mean anything. Let's see. Number 2, a federal appeals court pauses lower court order on releasing illegals into the country without a hearing. Got that. And number 3, I want to talk about the cost of illegal aliens in this country. And something that I heard yesterday that I thought was brilliant. Brilliant. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who, by the way, has done a fine job in the state of Florida from everything that I can see. As the governor of the state of Florida, he has done things right. He has knocked things down and built things up when appropriate for both. He has made it possible for, look at this. Let me just reach over and grab this headline here. West Palm. Trump's backyard has become America's biggest magnet for taxpayer wealth. Palm Beach County, Florida, attracted more than $3 billion in taxable income from households moving in from other states, the largest gain of any county in the country. Palm Beach, home to Mar-a-Lago, the Southern White House. The sunny Florida enclave has become an increasingly high-profile destination for political donors, business leaders, affluent residents. Yeah. The latest IRS figures, the trend continues. Lower tax, fast-growing states like Florida. And Trump's backyard is number 1, right? And here was Ron DeSantis being asked about, the cost of illegal aliens, and he said, you've got it all wrong. Here's what he said.
We were going to be reimbursed, but here's the thing. I love how the media will say, well, how much does it cost to house a detainee? They never ask, what's the cost of illegal immigration? How much does it cost schools? How much does it cost hospitals? How much does it cost the criminal justice system, our jails, our prisons if people are committing crimes? What's the cost to families that have been victimized by criminal aliens? They never talk about those costs. And so what we're doing, yes, we're going to get reimbursed, but we're saving costs on our society by enforcing the rule of law. And so what we're doing is leading the nation. We're doing the right thing. We also have zero tolerance in Florida for attacks against any law enforcement, but particularly ICE personnel. You try that here, you're going to have the book thrown at you, and you're going to regret that you didn't do it. Florida's not Portland. That's not how we roll, and we respect and protect the people that enforce the laws on our behalf. Yes, sir.
That's not how we roll. Right, what is the cost on law enforcement, the healthcare system, public services, all of it? What's the cost on people who have lost loved ones to criminal alien behaviors? What is the cost? Not just the cost. They asked, what does it cost to house an illegal alien? That's a fair question. Another fair question is, what does it cost everything else in society? From public services to health care to law enforcement, all of it. Ron DeSantis is exactly right. Van Jones, I've been waiting to play this. Van Jones, I saw this yesterday. I love it. Sick and tired of the socialists setting the Democrat Party on fire. And they are. What should have been a cakewalk for Democrats in the midterms, now looks like if the Republicans had a good night, they could end up with 224 seats. If the Democrats have a good night, they could have 227 seats. Really only 16 swing state seats right now. 16 districts up for grabs. And here's the problem for the Democrats as outlined by Van Jones. Listen.
People on the very far left in the Democratic Party. Ideas that are literally insane, nutty, moronic, dangerous, bigoted, are not progressive. They're regressive, and they should not be in our party.
I'm not living in communist America. I mean, I know the talking point is that, well, it's not communism, it's socialism. Okay, I've read the quotes from the DSA platform, from their own mouths. Don't tell me I'm not seeing what I am seeing. They say things like, you know, takeover of key industries, government. That's communism.
That is communism. So Van Jones and Bill Maher, high-profile people saying this is insane. John Fetterman openly talking about leaving the Democrat Party over anti-Semitism and the hatred for Israel. Yeah, you let the kooks into the tent, and this is what happens. Meanwhile, another bit of a problem. Despite the war in Iran, despite the lack of accountability for a lot of people we thought would be held accountable by now, Donald Trump remains very popular within the Republican Party. More popular, in fact, than any president with his own party, I think, in my lifetime. CNN forced to admit the truth. Here it is.
Trump and Dorsey is one Senate primaries of non-elected incumbents. So we're not just looking at elected incumbents, right? We're looking at open seats or appointed incumbents who have never actually won the Senate seat. Look at this. Since 2022, it's about 95% of the time. This year, in fewer races, it's 100% of the time. No wonder why the prediction markets and the conventional wisdom have moved so rapidly once Trump made that endorsement, because at least in Senate races, Trump's record this year, 100%. And since 2022, nearly 100%. There has never been somebody I have seen as powerful in terms of their ability to move the electorate in primaries than the current president of the United States, Donald John Trump.
What's one reason for that?
One reason why is because Trump is still very popular with Republicans. Just take a look here. Okay, 21st century own party approval rating, about at this point in the second term. We got Trump, we got Obama, we got Bush. Look, they're all fairly popular, but the one who is the most popular, and we have seen this time in and time out, no matter when you look, is Donald John Trump. He's the only one who's over 80%. 83% of Republicans still approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing as president. He still has that magic touch. We'll see if it carries over to South Carolina, but we've seen it in primaries this year, Senate primaries, and that is because he is still a very popular man, historically popular when it comes to his own party liking and approving of the job that he's doing.
So it was Marquette asked a really...
My guess is this. South Carolina could be a little bit different. I got a lot of connections to South Carolina. A lot of people there I know have voted against Lindsey Graham the last couple of terms, but he gets over the hump in the primary, and then, of course, he wins in the general. I think people are ready for something new, and I'm not sure Lindsey Graham's sister is the answer they're looking for. So Nancy Mace has endorsed Ralph Norman. Will Ralph Norman be the guy? I don't know. I haven't seen any polling out of South Carolina yet, but I'm going to look. All right? Take a break and be right back on Daybreak. Well, the Michigan primary is almost here. Arizona, of course, wrapped up yesterday. Andy Biggs, if anybody can win that governor's race, I think it's Andy Biggs. We'll see how that happens. Obviously, the primary in Michigan, a big deal. We'll see who the Democrats put up. But if you want to see Republicans in Michigan, and obviously it's a big event for Republicans to see who comes out on top, well, there's going to be a gathering at Liberty Mountain. Liberty Mountain going to have a big get-together with all sorts of the people that are on the ballot and other supporters and other conservatives coming up here on Saturday. Trucker Randy Bishop is with me, host of your Defending Fathers radio program in the great state of Michigan. Randy, nice to see you this morning.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Nice to have you here. I'd say Liberty Mountain. First of all, tell folks what Liberty Mountain is, because it's kind of a big deal.
It is. If everybody listening remembers our high school days of going to Pine Knob in Sashabaw Road, Clarkston, Michigan, DTE Center over the years, this venue in Farwell, Michigan, right off of M115 in Clare County, Steve, is approximately 4 times larger than Pine Knob. They say they can hold between 35 and 40,000 people. It's kind of their breakout event for politics. They have worked out a plan with the chairman of the Michigan Republican Party, Jim Runstead, and we reached out and talked to fellow patriot rocker Ted Nugent. Ted agreed to not charge a fee. He's doing a fundraising event for the Michigan Republican Party. That's why the title of the event is Rock Michigan, Am I Red? And the website, libertymountainusa.com, has the tickets available. This is a fundraiser, Steve, for the Michigan Republican Party. Half the proceeds, the net proceeds, are going to go to the state party. The other half is going to be going to the local 83 county Republican parties based on their participation. If anybody listening belongs to a Republican Party, if they go and buy a ticket, they will then put their county into sharing the pie. And it's going to be a big event. The event starts at 3 o'clock on Saturday, this Saturday, July 25th, and will end roughly about 10:30 with fireworks. And in the meantime, Ted Nugent's there. We got Scott Page from Pink Floyd, a bunch of comedians, a bunch of speakers. Perry Johnson, John James have both been invited. Mike Rogers will be there. And also, yet to be named, we have a big-time VIP person coming from President Trump's administration. And I'm praying it's J.D. Vance, but we'll see. So that's all happening this Saturday in Farwell, Michigan.
Well, you know, the president knows, Randy, and I've talked to him about this on several different occasions. He has thought since before the 2016 election, when I first spoke to him, through 2020, through 2024, President Trump has always believed that the road to victory goes through Michigan. And he was right. As Michigan goes, the election goes. He was right about that. So this is a big deal because if he's, I'd like it to be J.D. Vance as well. That would be terrific. Right. But it's really important that Michigan step up in important races for the governor's seat. And, of course, you'll have candidates there. But that U.S. Senate seat that Mike Rogers is going to face, it looks like Abdul El Sayed, which is, to me, I can't believe what Democrats are doing across this country and the people that they are nominating, but so be it. I don't think that Michigan people, I don't think the unions, I just saw the unions endorse El Sayed. I'm like, so let me get this straight. You want to forfeit your union contract that has all these great benefits for medical and everything else and give it to the Medicaid for all people and let the government control and take away this contract? I don't believe that the rank and file people are behind that, Randy. What do you hear?
Well, I believe that was a union boss thing. That's why we fought so hard back in 2011, 2012, Steve, to make Michigan the 24th right-to-work state. As you know, Governor Gretchen Whitmer and the Democrats, when they got the trifecta in 23, 24, they repealed right-to-work. The union bosses, I believe, are behind that. It's not the rank and file. You know, like you say, you've had Brian Pannenbaker on your show, UAW Workers for Trump.
That's right.
Their health insurance, Steve, their benefits, going to the eye doctor, going to the chiropractor, going to all the places they go is a direct result of the negotiations in their union contracts.
And it would all be gone under El Sayed's plan. All of it would be gone So I don't see how union members of any union, UAW or any of them, that have fought for, the contracts that they have and gone on strike, negotiated, pay their union dues, would surrender that to some socialist scheme. Anyhow, I digress a little bit, Randy, because I find it bizarre, but all right. Randy's going to be there as well, coming up at this big event. You got Ted Nugent, Scott Page, Dave Landau, Mike Loftus. You'll see in person, you'll see Mike will be there, right? Mike Rogers will be there. Bill Heisinger, Andy Forlini, John Molinar. I'm just reading the list here. Carla Wagner, who's trying to get done for Michigan what Ron DeSantis did for Florida, which is get rid of property taxes altogether. So it's a big event. Where do people get tickets, Randy?
LibertyMountainUSA.com. Just click on events, Steve. You'll see the Ted Nugent flyer there. There's a countdown to when the event starts. Just click on buy tickets. You have various options there. Also, if people want to camp, we're going there Friday night, Steve. We're setting up our travel trailer, and we're spending the weekend in our travel trailer there on the mountain. You can also reserve a campsite. If you want to pitch a tent, bring your trailer, your RV, whatever you have.
All right. So it's camping, concerts, events, LibertyMountainUSA.com. It's a big fundraiser, and Ted Nugent will be there headlining it with all these other people that are so critical to the future of Michigan. Randy, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve, for having me. Have a great day.
You too. Greatly appreciated. LibertyMountainUSA.com. And for anybody in Michigan, you know what Pine Knob is. It's 4 times the size, which seems remarkable. I went to a lot of concerts at Pine. I lost a lot of hearing at Pine Knob. I'll tell you that. A lot of hearing was lost at that place. Anyhow, LibertyMountainUSA.com, a cool place to learn something about. I'll take a break and be back. This is Daybreak. All right. Here's, this does not surprise me, by the way. Another oil company posting record profits. You see, they'll blame the issues of the Iran war on the spike in oil prices, but they celebrate it. They do. They celebrate. Those that are in oil celebrate this whole deal. Equinor, 93% jump in second quarter profits from a year earlier. The Norwegian major on Wednesday reported an adjusted operating income after taxes of $3.225 billion just for the second quarter. That's up 93% from $1.6 billion in the same period a year ago. Remarkable. Oh, the price of oil's up? Oh, that's too bad. Look at us make profit. The adjusted operating income surged 76%. Every time this happens, they cash in. Here's a little warning for you, though, and it's a serious one. China could be about to remove oil's biggest safety net. Global oil market buffers are disappearing. Our oil reserves are down 43%. China's sharp reduction in crude imports has helped cap prices, but analysts expect the world's biggest oil importer to resume buying very soon as it draws down its stockpiles. If the disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz persist and Chinese demand rebounds, analysts warn oil markets could tighten significantly, and that would send prices soaring. Says the oil market may soon run out of the supply and demand cushions that have kept prices from soaring to record highs during the huge loss. So the window provided the U.S.-Iran Memorandum of Understanding during the Middle East producers rushed the crude amassed in the Gulf out. But now, what would it mean? China wants 4 million barrels more a day compared to 2025. Their oil imports fell 41% in June, so they've been off the market for a good portion of this. But they can't stay off the market forever. Last month, China took 41 million barrels from its inventories. That can't last. So brace yourself, kids, because it could get a lot worse if China starts buying. And that's what China wants. That would force Donald Trump into a real corner. We'll have more after this on Daybreak. All right, back to it now. Back in the 1950s, they said if you want to get rich, get into plastic, right? But plastic has its champions and its critics. But when it comes to jobs, it creates a lot of them. That's why I have Ross Eisenberg here, president of America's Plastic Makers, part of the American Chemistry Council, recognized as one of Washington's 500 most influential people there in the nation's capital. Ross, welcome to the program.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me.
You certainly aren't without your critics, but you have a bipartisan win for jobs. I mean, let's be honest. Microplastics and so forth are a concern to some people, and I understand that. But plastic in general, I mean, let me look around here. My phone, my computer, my desk, my whatever, right? Plastic and different creations they're ubiquitous, right? And you've got a bipartisan win for jobs. Tell me about that.
Well, so this morning, the House Energy and Commerce Committee has a bill on recycling that they are looking at, and it would essentially, it's a consumer protection bill. It directs the Federal Trade Commission to essentially set national standards for the packagers. So the companies that you're buying the products from, your Tide detergent pods and the stuff in the grocery store. It basically says, here's what your guidelines are for using recycled content in your product. And the purpose of that, since there really aren't national standards that exist, is to encourage them to do it because they'll get credit for doing it. And we, as the plastic manufacturers, want to see more recycled content get into the system. We think it's good for everybody, keeps stuff out of the landfill, keeps it out of the environment, minimizes the microplastics issue. But we got to get more into the products. And so if the retailers actually get credit for doing it, we think they'll do it more. And at the end of the day, it gives consumers the protection to know that, hey, if that package I'm buying says it has recycled content in it, it does. And everybody wins there.
When you say getting credit to do it, what do you mean? Are they going to get paid, these companies, to do it?
No, and it's really just kind of simple market dynamics, right? So if there are certain states that encourage retailers to use recycled content, we know from, frankly, every poll that we do that consumers will actually make packaging decisions, and if they see that there's recycled content in it, it matters to them. And so retailers want to do it, but if they're not necessarily going to be allowed to do it, or they're running afoul of maybe guidelines, or they think they're going to get sued for it or something like that, then they're going to be reticent to do it. They're obviously risk averse, just like everybody else. So establishing clear guidelines that say, hey, this is what you need to say on your package so that you can get credit for it with the consumer, and with any state that actually needs you to get credit for it, under a recycled content law or something like that. That is the certainty that they need, which we hope will give them the confidence to start using more recycled product in their packaging.
So what's the content? How much plastic gets recycled today, roughly? Is it a third? Is it half? I mean, how much of it goes through?
Oh, no, it's a pretty low number, unfortunately. In the United States, it is really in single digits, 8 to 9% overall.
Really?
And that's, yeah, and there's a couple reasons for that. One is not every plastic is the same. A plastic bottle, the kind of water bottle you get, the detergent pods, the detergent jugs, things like that, they get recycled at closer to 30%. So that's a little bit higher. But anything that is flexible, right? Those gummy bear pouches, the Ziploc bags, the wrapping on that cucumber that you're buying, which actually does serve a pretty good purpose. That's under 1%. And it's because we just don't have the infrastructure in place to do it. We can get that infrastructure in place, but at the end of the day, we need the retailers to actually start putting the recycled content in their product. There's a technology that we call advanced recycling that essentially is, it's using chemistry. And I like to say it's like unbaking a cake. If you could take a cake and you could reduce it back down to its elements, to the flour and the sugar and the milk and the eggs and all that stuff, and then turn it into a cake again, we can do that with plastic. We, the plastics industry, can do that with plastic. But we're not building them because the retailers aren't essentially saying that they want it because they're not getting credit for using it in their product. That's what this bill would solve. And then we can actually start recycling those plastics at a much, much higher rate, which I think everybody wants.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the rate is so low, to be honest with you, Ross. I thought it would be. Well, I mean, I drive through my neighborhood. Everybody's got their recycling bin out front, and they got their cardboard and their plastic or whatever they put in there. But maybe that's an exception, not a rule. I don't know.
So the issue with plastics is that the plastics we're using today are vastly different than the ones we used 50 years ago, right?
Sure.
And so, but this was a system, this recycling system we've got was set up 50 years ago. And so, we're still putting stuff in the blue bin. I would encourage you to do it, but basically every municipality is different, so you got to make sure what they'll take. Our goal is for them to take everything, but there's, it's a very the chain of custody that you get from the minute you put it in the blue bin to the minute it gets to the recycler is complicated, probably unnecessarily complicated. And so if a plastic doesn't make it through one step in that chain, it's not going to get to the recycler. And those are the kinds of things that I think Congress and the federal government really can help fix. And today is a good start with this bill they're looking at today.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so what do you expect it to make it? Does this bill make it through? You know, I was in D.C. all of last week. Not a lot of things that are agreed upon, but this could be a bipartisan piece of legislation. But there's a lot of things that they almost takes an act of God to get these people on the same page. Maybe this is it. Well, what are your expectations? What's your prediction?
It is. You have to run the gauntlet in Congress these days to get anything across the finish line on any issue. We're encouraged on this one. It is fully bipartisan. When it was released, it had 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans. I honestly can't think of a plastic or recycling bill in recent history that had anything like that. So, you're telling me they got a chance, right? I mean, this is one where it could get there. A lot of things have to happen. The congressional calendar is short. We're heading into an election. I'm very cognizant of that. But we've got some momentum. I'm really, really happy that Congress is looking at this today. We hope it'll move quickly through this committee and then maybe give it a shot on the House floor. And then at that point, anything can happen. So the more bipartisan a bill is, the more assured that you have a significant number of votes. I think the more encouragement it gives leadership to try to bring it to the floor for a vote. And so that's the path that we see this on. Anything can happen. I'm feeling good about this one.
All right. We'll see what happens. Ross Eisenberg, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. We'll see what happens. Are you shocked by that number? 8 or 9% of all the plastic in America gets recycled?
I recycle.
Yeah, a lot of things. But easy. Here's something for you that's not recycled. It's something new and exciting. It's the QE infrared facial mask, which I'm going to use to strangle Anthony later. This is a red infrared light therapy you can use at home to help support healthier-looking skin, boost collagen, soften the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. Instead of expensive spa treatments, you just wear the mask for a few minutes a day. Comfortable, easy to use, fits right into your schedule. I've uses this all the time. There it is. Perfect for Halloween. It's the same mask that we talk about here. People love the results. Skip the costly spa visits. Go to ExodusStrong.com. Use that code Gruber. Get the mask for under $200. ExodusStrong.com. Promo code Gruber. And there you have it. By the way, we recycle here too, but some, mostly cardboard, I guess. I don't know. I'm surprised by that number. Anyhow, Ivy's on her way in, and we'll be right back on Daybreak. All right, back to it now. And, of course, it's the best part of the program. Ivy is in the room. I have no idea what she's brought in her bag of goods today, your bag of tricks. Ivy, what's going on?
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
How
Nice
are
to
you?
see you. I'm good. I'm good.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm feeling good.
Excellent. I love when
I
you
slept
feel
well
good.
again. I did. It's all good.
That's great. Are you looking forward to standing in some mountain rivers in a few weeks?
As you and I have talked about, I mean, this job is demanding.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, well, you just talk on the radio. How hard can it be? You want to trade seats? Yeah. It's demanding all the time. The news cycle is demanding. It's time for a little breather. The mountains are calling. I must go.
Where are we going?
That's right. The mountains are calling. I must go. There's something special about being in nature. It's healing. It's incredible.
Where's Anthony going? Out the side door.
Out the side door. Well, I think that one of the things that we really try to do here on this program is speak truth.
Yes.
Go find what the truth is. And a lot of that last week was released during the announcement.
I don't think anybody's been fired. Nobody's been arrested. Here's clear evidence that the intelligence community hid the truth from the president. The Chinese got 220 million voter files. Where is the urgency?
Well, I want to play you a bite from Representative Chrissy Houlihan, who talks about, this is what we're up against in terms of revealing the truth in this country and
she's a charmer.
The rest of the Democratic Party. But here's that bite.
Hi, Congresswoman. Allison Steinberg with Lindell TV. Last time I spoke to you, it was right before Trump's announcement on election interference. You said there was nothing to see, but it's now come out that there was over 280,000 non-citizens on the voter rolls. Does that concern you at all? Does that concern you at all?
That's laughable. That's all I'm going to say about that.
These are declassified documents.
That's ridiculous.
Why is it ridiculous?
Because it's impossibly wrong and absolutely fake news, and you're irresponsible for reporting those kinds of fake stories to the American people.
It's not fake. These documents are real. You think they're just made up? They're just fake documents?
Let me tell you this. If you can name my name, I will answer your question. Who am I?
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
All right, what's your question?
My question is, you told me there was nothing to see regarding the
These are
election
fake
interference
documents.
announcement.
All of them.
280,000 illegals are on the voter rolls.
Can you point to me one? Can you
It's
find
all
me
on the
10?
website.
Can you find me 20? Can you find me 100?
Yes, I
Can you find
can.
me 1,000? Can you find me anybody?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Yes,
All
I
right.
can. You know how I know that, Ivy? May I answer the question?
Yes.
Because yesterday in New Jersey, they found 7,000 non-citizens on the voter rolls, hundreds of which have been voting since 2023 at least. Hundreds. In New Jersey. I know because the governor, Mikey, Cheryl had to come out and admit it, but who did she blame for that?
Well, she blamed
Donald Trump.
Oh, no. Actually, I think there was, what was it? It was, there was a specific company that went in and did an audit.
That's correct.
And then they said, oh, there was nothing wrong. And then that was actually not true.
That was not true. And so then the governor tried to blame it on a glitch in the system. Well, the provider there of this, it's called IDEMIA, IDEMIA. They said their role, they came out, they're angry. Our role is to transmit information through the motor vehicle system. The voter registration information is transmitted to the New Jersey Department of State Division of Elections, which is ultimately responsible for verifying election eligibility and voting eligibility. Had nothing to do with a computer glitch. New Jersey is lying about it. They got caught. They've got 7,000 foreign people on their voter rolls. And that's just from this little look.
Right.
How many people in across all of New Jersey or all of America? Because, you know, there's like 30 states that refuse to provide the Department of Justice any information at all.
Was Michigan one of those states, Steve?
Yes.
Of course.
It
Of course
is.
we were.
Yes, Michigan is one
And generally
of those
the
states.
blue states weren't going to be providing the information, I would assume.
Of course not. But the DOJ, here's some good news, just came out minutes ago. The DOJ has launched a full investigation in New Jersey after the Democrat governor admitted thousands of non-citizens registered to vote. So that just happened this morning. That's breaking news.
Well, there's something else I want to go over here. And I just find that, first of all, this sort of like cognitive dissonance is exactly what we just witnessed with that representative
Chrissy Houlihan
from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
How do you, I don't even understand how you deal with that. Like, all the evidence is placed in front of you, and you are telling a reporter that you look at classified information every day. You can't find one person on the voter rolls that are illegal, which is absolutely false. I mean, how are you?
Right.
I just don't understand how to deal with this.
Name me one illegal. Well, let's go to New Jersey.
So
I've
there's
got lots. Go ahead.
Another crazy thing I heard this morning. I just want you to hear the bite, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
All right, go ahead.
The Smithsonian was promoting as a document to be upheld around that time period, 2020, 2021, whatever it may have been, suggested that objectivity was a tool of white supremacy. I think we can all agree that that is facially ridiculous. And you think objectivity is a tool of white supremacy?
I'm not going to interrupt you. I just want to say you presume things that were not true.
Do you believe that objectivity is a tool of white supremacy?
Well, you said we can all agree on something. I'm just saying we don't all.
Can we all agree that objectivity is a tool of white supremacy?
That requires a longer discussion we're going to have in the 6 minutes we have left.
So what do you, I posed the question to you. Is objectivity
I just don't want you to make
assumptions. But you interrupted me to make that point.
Because you made an assumption about me that's not true.
So
just continue on.
No, I'd like to know. Is your assumption
inaccurate? I want you to continue.
Well, look, you interrupted me, so I'm giving you the opportunity to weigh in.
Can I just come back to us real quick?
Crazy.
So the Smithsonian was promoting a document suggested that objectivity was a tool of white supremacy.
So is politeness.
Objectivity is the quality of being based on observable facts, evidence, and reality rather than personal feelings, biases, or interpretations.
Right.
Apparently, objectivity is now
Being
racist.
objective is now white supremacy. Being polite is white supremacy. Breathing is white supremacy. Anyhow, Ivy, got to leave it there.
Love you.
Way to bring the goods and the receipts. Love you too. I'll have some final thoughts after this. All right, so here's I've got to see this and figure this out. Apparently, according to the Department of Homeland Security, the number of voters in New Jersey, we just said 6,600, right? That's what the governor admitted yesterday. But apparently, the number of non-citizens registered to vote in New Jersey is over 35,000. A new number just released by Homeland Security of non-citizens registered to vote in New Jersey. So out of the 6,600, they said several hundred voted. Out of 35,000. This is New Jersey. This is not Pennsylvania. This is not Illinois. This is not New York. This is New Jersey. So not one of the big states, not one of the big consequential states. How many non-citizens are? This is the real question. And I'm going to say it's over 1 million. There's my Kalshi guess to handicap the problem. More than 1 million in California. That's my guess. But if you look at places like Georgia, how many there? Or Michigan, or Arizona, or Nevada, or any of the other critical swing states? 35,000 plus now in New Jersey. So you'd have to then extrapolate if out of 6,600 you had 500 vote, you had thousands of people voting illegally. Thousands. And they know it. And in New Jersey, they knew it for a couple of years. They knew this for a couple of years and tried to bury it. Man, they just lie all the time. They don't care. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is Daybreak. And remember, it takes you to save America.